What if the one who died at Marineford wasn't Ace, but Luffy? Would Ace still be able to stand after that? Would the Straw Hats even stay together? If the boy carrying the future died before reaching the New World, would that single moment doom everything? Well, I found 3 different theories about how this story could continue. In the first theory, Luffy's death destroys Ace so completely that Marineford takes both brothers on the same day. Ace is freed, Whitebeard's men open a path, but for one brief moment, escape feels possible. Then a Kainu attacks. Luffy throws himself in front of Ace and takes the blow meant for his brother. The magma fist tears through him, and Luffy dies in Ace's arms. Ace does not explode in rage right away. That would have been merciful. Instead, he just stares. The battlefield roars around him, but for Ace, everything goes silent. Marco shouts. Jinbei reaches for him. Whitebeard orders his sons to retreat. Ace hears none of it. The moment Luffy's eyes lose their light, something inside Ace dies too. He sets Luffy down gently, rises, and turns toward Akainu, with a face so empty it frightens even the Marines. His flames erupt, but they no longer feel alive. They look like grief given shape. Marco tries to stop him. Ace blasts past him. Jinbei begs him not to waste Luffy's sacrifice. Ace doesn't answer, because there's nothing left to answer with. He charges Akainu again and again, abandoning all defense, all reason, all hope of survival. He's no longer fighting to live. He's fighting because he can't bear to. For one instant, it almost looks like Ace might kill him. Then Akainu lands the final blow. Ace collapses on the same battlefield where Luffy fell, revenge unfinished, his life burned out by grief before his body ever hit the ground. On that day, 2 graves stood where there should have been a future. Now, that's only one possibility. In the second theory, Marineford still ends in tragedy, but instead of the world exploding right away, it rots from the inside for 2 full years. Luffy dies in Ace's arms. Whitebeard still batters Akainu and makes his last stand. Shanks still arrives in time to stop the war, but after that, the story gets uglier on a personal level. The news spreads and reaches the people who loved him. On Kuragana, Mihawk tells Zoro what happened. His sword slipped from his hands and hit the ground, and for once he does not even bend to pick them up. He just walks. On Momoiro Island, Sanji hears the news and the lighter falls from his fingers. On Weatheria, Nami cannot speak. On Torino Kingdom, Chopper screams that he's a doctor and still couldn't save his captain. Frankie smashes his newest invention. Brook goes quiet. Robin remembers Enies Lobby and feels like the world has turned gray again. But the story doesn't end there. One by one, they make their way to Fuchsia Village for Luffy's funeral. Dadan blames Garp through tears and fists. Makino can barely hold herself together. Then the red hair pirates arrive, and Shanks is carrying Luffy's straw hat. Ace stands at the grave like a dead man who somehow kept walking. And that is where this theory truly begins. Standing in front of that grave, Zoro says Luffy's dream will not die here. He will still become the world's strongest swordsman, but he will also keep moving toward Laugh-Tale in his captain's place. Not because he can replace Luffy, but because somebody has to keep that dream alive. The crew agrees to meet again in 2 years at Saburi. Those 2 years are much darker than the original story. Every Straw Hat trains harder because this time there's no hope waiting for them at the end, only responsibility. They come back stronger, sharper, and colder. Zoro fights like a man trying to carve his captain's name into history. Sanji's kicks are more brutal. Robin hesitates less. Chopper pushes his body further because he never wants to be helpless again. They're still the Straw Hats, but the joy has been burned out of them. Ace changes too. Instead of dying and passing the flame to Sabo, he survives and becomes a revenge-driven weapon. He trains harder under Marco and the Whitebeard remnants, turning every battle into preparation for Blackbeard. Sabo regains his memories when he sees the news of Luffy's death, and that sends him spiraling into grief alongside Dragon. The Revolutionary Army becomes far more aggressive because to them, Luffy's death proves that the world rulers will crush anyone tied to the coming dawn. To Imu, this is perfect. No more Joy Boy. Let the broken survivors tear each other apart. 2 years later, all that anger finally explodes. Ace and the Whitebeard remnants move against Blackbeard, and the Straw Hats join them. Sanji crashes through commanders in bursts of fire. Robin's hands bloom under enemies and snap bones. Frankie turns the shoreline into artillery. Chopper rampages like a beast. Zoro crashes into Shiryu. Then Ace sees Blackbeard, and his flames burn hotter and hotter until they turn blue. He attacks like a man who's been reliving Marineford every night for 2 years. But even after all that training, the fight is still horribly difficult. Without Luffy, everyone here had to become less human just to keep up with the darkness of the world. But the third theory is where the story takes the biggest twist by far. In this version, Luffy does die at Marineford, but not before the Nika fruit gives him one final miracle. Akainu's magma fist pierces Luffy's chest. Ace catches him. The world freezes. Then, faintly at first, a sound starts beating through the battlefield. Drums. Ace looks down. Luffy's body twitches. His hair turns white. The ground bounces. His face stretches into that impossible grin. For one final moment, right there in the middle of Marineford, Gear 5 awakens. Everyone is stunned. Even Akainu hesitates. Luffy rises back to his feet, laughing. But he already understands the truth. This is not life saved, this is borrowed time. He turns to Ace and tells him to go, to get back to the ship, to live. Then he throws himself back into the war. His body moves like a myth made real. He ricochets off the ground, smashes aside Marines, and intercepts Blackbeard's crew when they descend on Whitebeard. Whitebeard sees him and understands immediately that this is not a rescue. It is a farewell. Marco tries to reach him. Ace wants to stay. Luffy screams at them to move. Then Blackbeard sees the truth too. He sees the white hair and the impossible freedom in those movements, and greed lights up in his face. So when Luffy finally slows, when the laughter starts fading and the body can no longer sustain the wound, Blackbeard strikes. Darkness swallows the power. Luffy's last strength runs out, and before anyone can stop him, Blackbeard steals the fruit from Luffy's corpse. That changes the next 2 years completely. Now the world doesn't just lose Luffy, but rather the very power tied to liberation itself, to Blackbeard. The world government panics behind closed doors. Imu doesn't care that Luffy is dead. What matters is that the Nika fruit still exists, and now it's in the hands of the worst possible man. The public thinks the threat is gone, but the hidden rulers know better. Fast forward 2 years. Ace has trained relentlessly with the Whitebeard remnants. The Straw Hats have regrouped under Zoro. Sabo has returned to Dragon, and Blackbeard, armed with darkness, quake power, and Luffy's stolen fruit, is growing into something absurd. Eventually, all roads lead to one giant war between Ace's side, the Straw Hats, and the Blackbeard pirates. This battle is massive. Zoro cuts through waves of enemies trying to reach the center. Robin and Brook control the field, while Frankie and Usopp keep entire flanks from collapsing. Chopper is in the monster form, tearing through men twice his size. Marco flies overhead in blue fire, while Ace moves below him like a storm waiting to erupt. And at the center is Blackbeard, grinning as he stretches with stolen rubber power, cloaks the battlefield in darkness, and cracks the air with Whitebeard's earthquakes. Then the sky opens. Dark circles appear above the island. The Gorosei arrive. Saturn steps onto the battlefield. Marines move into position, and above even all of them is the invisible pressure of Imu, because this is the nightmare they feared most. The user may not be Luffy, but the Nika fruit is still active. Joy Boy's powers still exist. It must be erased here and now. Blackbeard tries to awaken the fruit fully in the middle of combat, and for a moment it works. His hair turns white. His eyes gleam. He starts laughing with that same unnatural freedom. But the fruit does not belong to him. The Nika fruit has a will of its own, and after awakening through Luffy at the moment of death, it carries traces of Luffy's will inside it. So when Blackbeard tries to use that power against Ace, Zoro, and the Straw Hats, the fruit rebels. His shadows start moving on their own. Bursts of light interrupt his darkness. Laughter cracks through the battlefield at the wrong moments, ruining his control. 1 second he's attacking Ace. The next, his own power whips sideways and crushes one of his commanders. He tries to force it down, but the clash of wills inside him starts ripping him apart. That's when Imu intervenes directly. A colossal beam of light crashes onto the island, obliterating a section of the battlefield. The elders move in to finish Blackbeard and destroy the fruit. Their message is clear. No more Joy Boy. Not in Luffy, not in Blackbeard, not in anyone. But the fruit has already made its choice. As Ace and Zoro are being cornered, Blackbeard realizes he cannot keep the fruit. If he does, he dies. In one grotesque and desperate motion, he drags the fruit back out of himself. The swirled fruit drops into the air between everyone on the battlefield. The elders lunge for it. Zoro gets there first. He catches it, looks at it for 1 stunned second, and understands immediately. If he hesitates, the Gorosei erase it forever. So right there, in the middle of the war, Zoro makes the ultimate choice for his captain. He eats the fruit. The battlefield goes silent. Then the drums begin again. Zoro's body doesn't react like Luffy's did. It's rougher and stranger, like a swordsman forcing himself into a power built for freedom and chaos. But it works. White aura bursts around him. The elders realize in horror that Joy Boy's power is still alive. Imu's effort to erase that future has failed again. With Ace at his side and the rest of the crew holding the line, Zoro uses that absurd power in his own way. Not with Luffy's playfulness, but with impossible sword strikes that bend momentum around them. Ace's flames roar hotter as he fights like his brother is beside him again. Together, they overwhelm Saturn, and the other elders are forced to retreat. Blackbeard escapes. The war ends. The Nika fruit survives, and the world government learns the lesson it's been trying to deny this whole time. You can kill the pirate. You can't kill his will to be free. And that opens a much bigger question. If even death cannot stop Luffy's will from coming back into the story, then can we make a pirate crew so strong that it will make even fate bend to them? Well, that's the subject of this other video. Click on this video to see what the strongest One Piece crew ever would look like. Click it!